Hello, my name is FP. This is a devlog for Payload Race Atlas. This is A1A, basically the first version. This is going to kind of be, I hope, a little devlog series. But I had a lot of thoughts about the 4 Payload Race game mode, and I kind of want to talk about them. So this map was tested on the Alt-Tab playtesting servers. There will be a link to it in the description down below. If you want to join the Discord server where playtests of this map will happen in the future, if I'm available, every Sunday they do playtests on the TF2C mapping community Discord server or Alt-Tab player servers. It's a place where you can test community maps like this one, which are very obviously very heavily in development. This is nowhere near done. A1 means Alpha 1, means this is a baby. This is a little baby. And we are going to try our best to make sure it becomes a great map. So, in case you aren't familiar as well, Team Fortress 2 Classic has 4-team, which means that you can have yellow and green team. And I kind of felt like there weren't really that many great attempts at some very popular game modes that I feel like would lend themselves to 4-team really well. In my mind, I think a 4-team payload race map would be really good, so I tried making one. This is actually my second attempt at making a 4 payload race map, so let's talk about that. So the map kind of has some areas which are very underdeveloped because I just kind of wanted to test an idea. Obviously, when you have 4 teams, you kind of want to make sure that one team has to cross paths with another opponent. And I thought the easiest way to do that would be to make the final like a giant pit. So I have a big pit explosion as the final point. As you can see, I have a very large rollback zone that starts at the base of this hill and continues all the way up to here, which is kind of mean, but I'll get to why it is that way in a second. As we follow the track back, you may notice that this actually isn't the track for Yellow's payload. I have a little crossover section here because I wanted to make teams have to push into another team's zone or area, so that way there'd be more like fighting. Because I kind of feel like in a lot of 4-team maps, actually I should back up. In a lot of payload race maps, there tends to be a lot of chaos because in game modes where you're simultaneously needing to attack and defend, especially when there's 4 teams instead of 2, the front line can kind of get really muddled. It can be kind of awkward to figure out where the front line is, and that can make it really frustrating where players kind of feel like they're running out of spawn, going into the map, and then dying immediately because they're just getting killed from behind constantly. So I tried to make areas of the map sort of funnel players in very obvious and readable directions. So that's why I have the payload track go through this tunnel. This tunnel is very, very two-dimensional. You know, you walk through it, and then you banana around to the other side of it. There's no like arching pathways or splits inside of it because I kind of want to make it so that if you go into this tunnel, I know where you're going to come out. You're going to come out the other end of it. And this area kind of became a little bit of spaghetti. I'll get into that in a second. But with this game mode, what I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to make some focused zones where I knew a lot of combat would be happening. So I put one of my spawn exits. I have 2 spawn exits, one that goes to the lower area, and then the spawn exit that everyone uses. It's kind of a problem that this one gets used so much more, but it's fine for now. But it is something I'm going to probably change in the future. I have this spawn exit, which goes up here and kind of dumps you out with these really nice doorways that give you a very clear look of, is anyone in the tunnel? Is anyone, like, on this little hill over here? If you come up the top part, you get this, like, nice little look across it as well. I wanted to make sure that, like, if you're on the low ground and someone's, like, over here, you can't see each other. I kind of wanted to do that so that, like, I didn't want it to feel like when you're walking out here, you're just exposed to the people over here as well. The other thing I did with this area specifically is I made sure that like the payload is pushed through it. So by having this little area here, yellow team, or wait, sorry, blue team will be pushing their payload cart here into red team, and red team, if they want, like an engineer can try setting up here. It's kind of dangerous because of the top of the hill, but an engineer can like put a sentry right here and kind of defend this little area, defend their little zone from being pushed further. I've kind of realized, though, that a flaw with this methodology is that you're kind of holding space you don't want, because where I would much rather be holding as engineer is up here. I'd much rather have like a bastion for my team at the top of the hill, so when my cart gets to the bottom of it, I can kind of funnel my cart up to the top of the hill and into the zone of engineers. The problem is that because there's so many routes up here, this is just the top of the map. It's the center of the map. It's where the payloads are going to explode. I kept this area pretty open. I didn't want to put any like crazy sentry spots here. So even though you can place sentries in a lot of places up here, the area, like the size of it is so large, and also the distance. I made sure to test this before I placed these. The distance is such that if you use a jump pad, you can get up to the top in one nice little jump, which is cool because Team Fortress 2 Classic has jump pads, and jump pads are awesome. If you place a sentry anywhere, really, even if you place it like on this center part, I should probably have held it more. You'll probably notice that like it doesn't hit the entire area around it. It is kind of a crazy sentry spot, but there's a lot of these little areas, like these little staircases here that can get rid of it. This ramp here is a really easy way to get rid of it. And then the fact that if one person's killing it from this side and one person's killing it from this side, the sentry kind of gets confused and goes doo-doo, and then doo-doo. It goes back and forth, so, you know, it's cool though. I like the sentry spot, it's funny. So one of the problems that I'm trying to really address in future versions is making it so you can meaningfully hold space for your team. But as it is right now, the concept of having the carts cross over initially also is really cool, because what it does is at the start of the game, blue and red have like a duel between these two teams, and then yellow and green have a duel between these two teams. And then as red pushes further into blue's territory, blue kind of, if they lose the first fight, they respawn and they can like contest red pushing into their territory again from like a slightly more advantageous position, because they can just fire down on them in here. But if they want to, they could maybe notice, hey, a green team is pushing their card up here. So now, like a sniper over here can be sniping and holding both of these, you know, kind of oscillating between both of these points. It's really cool. It leads to a really satisfying gameplay loop. The one problem is that one team tends to steamroll really, really hard, and for some reason it's always red. I think I accidentally made the map red biased. What ends up happening is if a team kind of just pushes from here and then pushes all the way over here and wins this fight. Let's say red wins the first fight and then also wins this fight here, and red team's just always got 3 people on the cart. Once they make it to this point, the problem is that for red to be contested, yellow and blue need to get to the top of the hill, or green. Like one of the teams that isn't red needs to get to the top of the hill. But these two teams, blue and yellow, as they're going up there, well, they're going to see each other first. And red team is kind of tucked away up here, you know, they're tucked away while pushing the payload card up. So these two teams are going to fight each other and then be like, okay, I beat all those enemies who were coming my way. Let me go stop red. And red is either capped the payload, or one of them is just standing here, usually a soldier, and is just like spamming down the choke here. And they just kind of destroy you. They kind of mog the people trying to come up the hill. Because as you get further and further up the hill, it gets really hard, kind of like counterintuitively, it becomes really difficult to contest the payload as it gets higher up the hill, because you just get less, it's kind of like in Mario Kart, where the person in first place kind of is just so far away from all of the action that it takes like a miracle blue shell pull to actually hit them with anything, assuming they don't have an item they can use to dodge it. It's kind of like that, except in a Valve game. So as I push the payload all the way up the hill, these two teams fight each other, and what usually happens in a kind of cruel twist of fate is this is all a giant rollback zone. I made this a giant rollback zone so that if a team does get stopped all the way up here, I was like, okay, well, their cart needs to roll back to here, for sure, because I made this a ramp. And I already had this be a rollback zone. I was like, why don't I just make this a giant rollback zone? Because it's fun. It's fun to have players group up. I think it's fun. It's very silly and exciting, and I think it's cool. As the payload gets pushed all the way up here, what we end up kind of discovering is that by having it be a giant rollback zone, teams don't want to get off their carts. So let's say here, red and yellow are pushing their carts up here. Red doesn't want to get off their cart, and neither does yellow, but red is ever so slightly ahead of yellow, meaning that they're going to push their cart first and win the game. So yellow is now kind of forced to because one scout like didn't get on the cart quickly enough at the start of the round. One scout has to get off the cart to make sure that red doesn't win the game, but it causes their cart to roll all the way back down this hill. That's kind of rough. That's really like rough to make a player have to choose between. And it's making me decide if I should have this giant rollback zone be this way. I have some other concepts for what I could possibly do. One of my ideas, one of my concepts is that as you push to the top of the hill, there's then one final section where there's like a four-way tower, kind of like on Hightower, where the cart is on like a little elevator and it raises up. Because then, not only does that make you even more exposed by all these people here, I think it'd be cool too, just to have like a visual of someone like all the way at the top of the map looking down on everything. Be some horrible sniper sightlines, but God, it'd be funny. I think what would be nice about it is that now you get your cart up to the top of the hill. It's like, boom, you made it up here. So now you have a little room to work with, because there is the 20-second rollback. I do have that as a thing just to incentivize teams to keep pushing their cart. But by having some kind of like elevator finale, it puts the teams closer together. So if I'm on one side and someone else is on the other side, it's much easier to ask like, hey, go around real quick and hit them. So then your cart like goes back down a little bit instead of going all the way back down here. It takes about 20 seconds to push up this hill solo. That's a lot. That's a huge commitment, especially if you get all the way to the top of the hill and you're like, oh, that guy's like ever so slightly closer, and you have to get off your cart to stop him, and it's like, I did it, and then you go all the way back here, you push all the way back up to where you were, and like a different guy on the same team is like ever so slightly ahead of you. Oh, that's so frustrating. That happened a few times, I think. But what's really good about this map is that if the map doesn't roll immediately, the layout is kind of proven to be fun. I've gotten a lot of positive reception from players who have played the map. We had like a 24 person playtest, and that was really fun. I had a lot of fun with that. And it makes me feel like the shape of the map is mostly correct. If I were going to make any adjustments, it'd be this flank area is a little bit redundant because players don't want to go here. The health pack is nice, but I want to like scooch it a bit closer to the action. There are multiple areas that seem very temporary. These areas are very open with nothing really going on. And this one is kind of spaghetti. There might be too many routes in this area. But for an A1, I'm really happy with it so far because it does play well. Maybe it doesn't play as well as it could, but the concept and base idea of the map is proving to work. It just needs a lot more polish, a lot of rough edges smoothed out. For instance, I thought this detailing was cool, but then players kept getting stuck like this. Yeah. Not to jump the gun, I thought originally I would theme this map in sort of like a big mountainous area. That's why I have like sort of like upward, like a big mountain hill kind of thing, with some kind of mining facility at the top of it. In a really weird way, I fell off the map one time. Kind of like that. Oops, my bad. I had kind of fallen off the map, and when I fell off the map and looked at the actual like map from the bottom like this, I don't know why, but it felt kind of like an oil rig. And then my mind just started to like churn with ideas of like, oh, it'd be really cool if it was like a sort of more industrial area, because then I have this giant pit here. What if this is a giant oil pit? I killed myself again somehow. What if this was like a giant oil pit with oil at the bottom of it, and like this center platform here is like a pump. There's like a big pump going all the way down, and there's like a little ring you can stand on. I thought that'd be so cool. I think that'd be a really cool idea for theming. I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but tentatively, I may reorientate some of the more natural-looking geometry to look a bit more industrial. An example of that would be like removing a bunch of these rocks and figuring out like a more geometric, a more like, industrial kind of shape to facilitate that. And replacing a bunch of these wooden detailing things, or what would be wooden detailing things with more like metallic, iron, steel, things like that. The last thing I'll say is that I think this area is really redundant. I want to just make this a big death pit because I think it'd be funny. Um, and to wrap up this death vlog, I need to do something about this area because I think it's causing too much spaghetti between this route, and I feel like there's a better solution I can make here. I do already have, at the time of me recording this devlog, I do already have an A2 and an A3, which I will make future devlogs on. I may only make a devlog on like one of them, the A3, because A2, it's kind of the same map with like very minor changes, very, very minor changes. I think I put a crate here. I've already forgotten because A3 just has so much more changes. I'll also leave like a download to a BSP of the map if anyone wants it somewhere. I'll figure out a place to put it. You'll find it eventually. You can actually find it in the Discord server. There's BSP, like public map files of the BSPs I'm working on in the Discord server. So if you want to go download it, just join the Discord server. Join the TF2 Classic Mapping Discord server. Devlog over.